Good morning, poker people. Let's start up a brand new session here. Let me go ahead and let everybody on Facebook know real quick. I hope y'all are having a really good day. I know that most people actually watch this later in the day, but thank you very much for joining me, regardless of it being live or streaming. It doesn't matter to me either way, as long as you're with me learning in this journey. I'm happy with that, you know. So let's see here today. Here is the agenda for today. So we are going to be doing some filter. Well, this entire week is looking at filters within Poker Tracker 4. Now, filters are where we want to spend most of our time in Poker Tracker 4. Not looking at graphs, not really looking at Leak Finder. The filters are where you're going to dissect and dive into your leaks and then dissect them and figure out where the leaks are coming from. You could also look at the good things you're doing. You could also analyze your opponents with the different filters. And then so this is where we're spending our time. So first up today for today's agenda, you can see we have our usual hand reading practice. Next up, lessons learned from this page right here. It's the download page of Poker Tracker 4, and it's all about customizing your Poker Tracker quick filters. We'll go over that in just a little bit. And then, of course, we'll be diving into the above filters just mentioned from that page right there. So let's start off first with a little hand reading practice. We simply want to see some showdowns. And then we can look for some older hands. Let's do some stuff from the button here. Because all of this is ACR, you know, we don't have to look at hands where we know the villains hold cards at the end, but it always helps us just to confirm if we're doing a good job hand reading or not. ACR, like I've said before, if you lose the hand, you can just muck, even if the opponent paid to see your hand. It's just the way that it works there. So all of these hands, while they could be great hands to hand read, let's take a look at some action. Check, bet, raise, check, bet, call, check, bet, 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 check, call, check, call, check, call. Like, so there's some decent action on all these different streets. I could be going through and hand reading them, which is fine. We can get some practice. But one of the goals this week, as you saw, or as you've seen before, I want to know about success or failure. I want to know that I'm doing a good job in hand reading them. Practice is practice, and the more practice you do, the better. But when you get to see the results at the end, when you see what hand they showed down, and you can confirm whether or not it's within the range that you set and that you narrowed through the streets, you're going to just be a little bit more confident in your hand reading skills. So that's why we are looking at losing hands here. You know, I just do not remember. We didn't do any hand reading the prior day. Day 8, no hand reading. Day 7, we did hand reading right here. Jack 9 suited. I think it was that one. I think it was this one that we did. Check, call, bet, call. Okay, I think that was the one we did. King 4. Let's look for some action here. Check, raise, bet, check, check, raise, bet, check, check, check. Okay, either one of these. Let's just do the King 4. Okay, so we got to whip out the Flopzilla, of course. We've got the King of Spades, 4 of Spades. Not too pretty of a hand, but probably worth calling, depending on the opponent who comes in. 62. Good. I'm good with the call right here. It's only 53 hands, no folding to 3 bets yet. So 62%. He opens 25% or raises 25% of the time. In the cutoff, 43%. This guy likes to open right here. Nitro Fish is a pretty loose, aggressive player. So let's assign him a pretty wide 2-betting range. We can give him the suited king for sure. We could take that off. Let's take off some of these weaker ones here. Let's just make it so he's slightly tighter. Maybe 8-7 off or better. King 7. Let's go King 8. Let's do all the offsuit 8s right here within his range. We can probably narrow it pretty good from this huge 521 combos. We could probably narrow it pretty well through the streets. Let's hope so, at least. That's the plan. Let's see here. Cool. King 7 suited, yeah. Guys like this like to open that stuff, and it's possible he could be opening all the kings. I would think he very well could be. Let's do that. 44%. If you take out you know, all our blockers, you take that out, he's opening there. Let's see, 40, 25. Normally 25% as an average, but it's 43 and 86 from the button. Yeah, it's only 53 hands, but the guy likes to raise right here, and he might, he might just be testing. It's only been 53 hands that I've played with him, 33 at this session, so it's only been 5 rounds, and yeah, he could just be testing me with a lot of suit. He could have all this stuff too, so, but we'll see what happens here. Oh, whoops. Oh, so first off, King 4 suited has 44% equity versus his opening range, which is pretty darn good. Currently, we're ahead of only 2 of his kings, but we're ahead of all these suited connectors. Not ahead of any of his offsuit hands other than his connectors and queens right there. Let's see here. All the pairs have us beat currently, but we do have that overcard king if it does hit. So we have some decent stuff. He has plenty of aces too. If we both get to the showdown without a pair, he's going to likely win with not without a pair, without pairing the board, I should say, because all these pairs he has and all those aces beat us. All these kings beat us as well. But most likely with his aggressive nature, we're not going to get to showdown just ace high and king high. He's going to bet and I'll fold, or I'll bet and he'll fold if he has complete nothing. So I call, of course. Ace 8 deuce. Now I'm not a fan of that flop at all for my hand. Backdoor straight draw, backdoor flush draw, king on an ace high board. Yeah, not a fan of it. Ace deuce 8 club, club spade. Okay, so on this board, we can see that his range hits the board 38% of the time. And by hitting, it's top pair or better, open-ended straight draw or better, and some combo draws right there. I'm not a fan at all of this board. I'm out of position with only a couple of backdoor draws. It's not a good board for me unless I want to try to do some kind of bluffing at it. We could see so far, C-bet's only 33%. It's 1 out of 3. It's a very small sample, but he folds 67%. This guy is kind of flop honest right here. So I think our plan should be to check. When he checks behind, we donk lead the turn, I think is what we do, because so far he's indicating that he's flop honest, but we'll see how things play out, you know. Yeah, the king 4. So now on this board, we drop down to 28% equity, which is just a terrible. From 44 to 28, we lost 16% equity right here. So what that means is if the hand were to play out right now, if we were both all in on the flop, I would win 28 or 29% of the time. He would win 71% or so. It's not a great situation to be in. We're out of position versus an aggressive player with a crappy hand. It's not bread and butter, baby. So 42 cents. So he throws out, okay. So what I think, he is flop honest for sure. And this is a really small bet, only 1/3 pot. He could easily be doing this less than a third pot. He could easily be doing this just as a straight bluff. He just doesn't like his hand. He doesn't like seeing the ace out there. Maybe he thinks I can call with a lot of aces. So he's throwing this bet out with his pocket 9s and 10s and jacks and king queen and pocket 3s even. He could be trying to, or 7-8, not 7-8, but 7-6 suited. What offsuits did I put in? Jack 10 and Queen Jack and 10-9, all those kinds of, he has a lot of hands that he's making this tiny weak bet with right here. So I think this is a good opportunity to either check raise or call and then just lead on the turn, which I would prefer actually a check raise here as a bluff, because that's all I'm doing in this hand. I'm not staying in for value for sure. I'm staying in with the opportunity to bluff him now or in the future. So good, we check raise to 3x right here. I think his reaction to this is going to tell us exactly what we need to know. So if he calls, he likes the ace on the board, or he has a flush draw. Straight draw? No. With 4-5, something like that? No. Did we keep 4-5 in his range? We did. We kept 4-5, but no. He either stays in with a flush draw, or I can't even see him staying with 9s or 10s. We check raise on the ace high board. I think oftentimes those kinds of hands are going to fold. So I would put him on some kind of a draw. Possibly those middle pairs, or just super weak aces that are just not comfortable, even though he has position on us right here. And if he has an ace, he has an ace blocker. There's only 2 aces left. There's not many that we can have if he has the ace. And he calls. Okay, so what kind of hand bets small and then calls the check raise? Sets for sure, just trying to get value out of us. 2 pairs as well. What are his 2 pairs? Ace deuce, ace 8, of course. Yep, I would say that those would bet small and then call and then get aggressive on the turn, trying to build the pot on the turn, because some money got in on the flop and it built the pot. He could possibly $4 we've oh, I have a big stack behind. He has $23 behind, $4. So if we think about this here, so SPR is 6, right? He has a there's $4 in the pot now. We'll just estimate $4, and he has 24, so 6. Well, I guess to get it a little bit, 5.5-ish, whatever. So there is 4.5 in the pot. 4.3 in the pot. Let's say he bets on the, or one of us bet 2/3 pot, 0.67%. So this is the flop. On the turn we bet, so the total pot will be right here. So the turn, whoops, the river pot will be here. And then if he bets 2/3 pot again, okay, so by the time, if he sticks with, if he bets like a 2/3 pot size bet, on the river it could be a $24 pot. He could have half of his stack in, about $12 or so, which isn't so bad. What he could do is actually up this to 75%. What happens if it ups his bet sizing a little bit here? 67. Okay, then we could have $27 in the pot, which isn't so bad. So right now he's on track to build a full 100 big blind pot, or even a little bit more at this point. So if he has a good hand, that would be good. If he has a great hand, if he has a set, he'll want to wake up on the turn with a little bit bigger of a bet sizing, or even a good size raise if I decide to donk lead on the turn in order to get a full 200 big blind pot. You know, his full stack with my share of it as well, or my match of it as well, right there. Yeah, so that's what's going on here when it comes to SPR 5.5, or right around 6 SPR, stack to pot ratio. You need to be betting more and building that pot and raising. I've effectively helped him right here by check raising. If he has a good hand, I've effectively helped him to build that pot to get a 100 big blind pot by the river. But we'll see what happens here, because he may very well play it a little passively, especially if he has a weak ace. Oh, so flop, there we go. Okay, so what kind of hand bets small and then just calls the raise instead of re-raising? Sets possibly 2 pairs, top pairs. Let's take a look. Yep, all those top pairs I would say could bet small, although, well, it is an ace high and semi-dry board. There's a couple of clubs, but as we saw in last week as we were studying, those flush draws don't often hit. The highest a flush draw hits is like 14% of the time, which is really, really low. It's only 1 out of every 7 flops, depending on the range, you know, where flush draws hit. So it's not something everyone's worried about flushes, and you should be. Once your opponent calls, then a flush draw is now in their range. But just in general, it's on a two-tone board. You shouldn't be necessarily worried about the flush just because the two-tone board, which this is a two-tone. There's 2 different colors on the board, the black clubs and the black spade, or 2 different suits. I mean, they're both black. Let's see here. Pocket pair below top pair. Can some of these bet small and then call? Totally. They can, because like, just think about all those. They don't want to get out of the pot, but they have second pair. They don't believe that we have a better pair, especially those kings, queens, and jacks. Those can totally be doing this right here. Although what I would do to really, betting small like that, it made my bluff, if I was bluffing, which I am, but he doesn't know that. If I was bluffing, it makes my bluff really really cheap to do. You know, I 3x'd it there, but, or over 3x'd it, but it was only $1.50. It was only 6 big blinds to 3x it. He should have led more to make my check raise more expensive for me. It would give him a better idea of what I have. Because it was so cheap, I could be doing it as a bluff. I could be doing it with pocket aces even that I slow played. Who knows? These middle pairs, they're all the different 8s on the board. Can these bet small and call? Yes, they can. Just trying to throw out that weak C bet right here on the first on the flop. And these weak pairs can do it as well. No made hand, we won't say those will. Flush draws totally open-enders. Gut shots can do it too. 2-card backdoor flush. I'm not going to say necessarily that they will. A lot of these 2-card backdoor flushes, they're already in. Actually, no, they're not weak. 10-9. Yeah, some of them are in no-made hand. 2-card backdoor flush. Let's say that they can, which is what? Just a couple of spades, which I have the backdoor spade, so I block some of his flushes hitting. So what happened was he started with 450 combos. If we're saying these are all the hands that he is bet calling with, he's from 450 down to 302 hands. So we've eliminated 1/3 of his hands, which is pretty good so far, just on this one action right here. By eliminating him, though, we've kept in a lot of good draws, as well as all the different pairs and stuff, even the bottom pairs, the tiny weak pairs, which drops us down even further to only 15% equity. So right there, that was just a straight bluff because he called. My plan would probably be to not do anything unless I get a miracle. What do I want? King 4 of spades. I mean, I don't really want a spade to just add equity. I could. I don't want a spade necessarily. What I want is a king. If a king comes, let's just choose a random king. We could see I get to almost 50-50 equity because he does have tons of kings in his range right there. It hits him as well, and my kicker's out kicked at this point. But that's probably the card I want the best. Do I want a 4? No, it only takes me from 15 to 18% equity. Nope, don't want a 4 right there. I could also be looking at the hotness chart right here. So we can see that really green means 100% equity for the range. Just about every card helps him. The blues are kind of like almost like 50-50 cards. They could help him, they could help me, or what the blues are. There's no red. Red is equity for the hand. So let's say, for example, let's say I had the King 4 of clubs like this. Okay, all of these clubs are definite equity for me because, hey, I made my flush. You know, I'm killing him at this point. So that's what this hotness meter is. So yeah, at this point, really, there's no cards that I like on the turn. It was just a straight bluff with hopes that he would fold because of that small bet. But of course, it was a no-go. The Jack of Diamonds hits, which does not help me at all. So at 15%, my equity, what, on the Jack of Diamonds goes down to 12%. Holy cow, even worse, 8%. Man, because that card just didn't help me at all. If I had a 10, well, before that, if I had a 10 for a backdoor straight possibility, right, I'm at 18% still. Was I at 18 before? 15 before on the 4. Okay. So now if I had the 10, because I have a little backdoor equity, or backdoor straight equity, my equity is up a little bit. Now if the Jack of Diamonds hits, I bet this will go from 18 to like what is it, 20, I don't know, 24%. 18. Wow, actually not much at all. Oh, because we only have one card left. It's not like, okay. So 31% if the Jack had hit on the flop because we still have 2 streets to draw. But because it hit on the turn, we still only have 1 street. We still have that same 18% equity. So it makes sense that that's just not a good card for us, really. It would add a little bit of equity, but hardly anything. We still just have 4 outs to a straight, a gut shot straight. No bueno here. So on the Jack of Diamonds, our equity drops to 8%, 7.5%, which is just terrible. At this point, I'm just giving up in this hand. Try to double barrel somebody off their hand after they bet and then called on the flop. It's just a recipe for disaster right here. I do not think I should bet. Let's see what I do. I don't remember this hand at all. And I bet right here. Of course, the Jack doesn't help him, necessarily help him. It could add an overpair to all of his, what were all those that he called with prior? Those middle pairs, those weak pairs right there. 10 9s, 7s, the pair of 8s that he might have bet and then called with. The Jack adds a little wrinkle to his, to things here. But it's just a crap card for us. It didn't add any equity. I shouldn't have fired on it right there. And then, of course, he calls. So what calls us at this point? 275, we followed up we double-barreled this turn, actually. What calls? I think at this point, sets and straights, I think straights are going to raise. I really do. Not straights, sets are going to raise because they want value now, you know. We bet that 275. Where'd that Excel sheet go? We bet 275, so we bet, what did we bet? Good. Right under 2/3 pot is what we bet. So by the river, let's say I follow that same bet sizing there, we're going to have a less than 100 big blind pot by the river. If he has a set here, he wants to raise us, especially on the ace high board, because we could have an ace and his set of eights, his set of ducks, or whatever it is, can get value from an ace high. He should be raising if he has a really strong hand. And there's a couple flush draws on the board, not a couple, there's a flush draw on the board with a couple of clubs. He would be raising here with a set for sure. So let's take sets out of his range. Two pair, let's see what they are. Ace deuce, jack eight, jack eight. Well, yeah, we did keep jack eights in his range. I think jack eights are raising as well. I mean, unless he puts us on some kind of a weird... He can't just put us on a strong... I guess, you know, jack eight might not raise with that two pair. Ace deuce might not... Ace deuce flop the two pair with the ace. Oh, we just got to follow. Thank you very much. Yeah, the ace deuce... Let's actually narrow this down here. So, two pair. Which ones are not? We could say possibly the ace deuces are not, but the ace jacks and the ace eights, I think those would raise here. Trying to build the pot with a strong two pair. The ace deuce might feel like, you know, there's an ace jack or an ace eight possibility. There's also a set that this guy could possibly have. I'm not going to raise. Same thing with the jack eights. It's a middle two pair, not super strong. Maybe not worth calling a big raise, or not worth raising, but it's worth calling a bet for sure. So I'm going to take those out of his calling range right here. But I'll keep the stronger two pairs in. Oh, I did that backwards. He's check calling, so I want to remove the stronger ones from his range. I think those would be raising in this instance. I just, in my head, backwards. So we're keeping the smaller ones in his range right here. And the reason why is because he's just calling with them with the weaker two pair. Now, these top pair hands, are they necessarily just calling? I don't think they would be calling. Let's take out some of these. So what hands are calling for sure? 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, just weaker aces are calling. 9 and 10, no kind of draw, nothing. You're outkicked by the jack. You could have waited a street, wanting to get active on the next street to see what the card came. Those are just calling. Ace king and ace queen. Now, I could have seen those raising the flop, re-raise, like bet and then raising on the flop, but they could have been slow playing. I think they would wake up now because of that possible flush draw on the board. So let's take out the strongest top pair hands from the range. Okay, pocket pair below top pair, what are they? Oh, kings and queens. Yeah, the jack doesn't scare the kings and queens, and so if they were good on the flop, they're good on the turn, is what they're thinking there. Middle pair now. Yeah, I think that's possible. They just suddenly hit a pair. They don't believe that we have an ace. Those are possibly calling. There's only 7 combos of those anyway. Now, weak pairs now versus the double barrel. Are all the pocket pairs, are all the 8s going to stay in, and those 10s are, you know, versus the double barrel. This guy is pretty aggressive, does not like to fold on the turn. Only out of one instance. Let's keep the weak pairs in his range. No made hand we'll take out. Flush draws we'll keep. Open ender? What is that? Oh, 10-9 of course. And then queen 10 as well. Yeah. I'm good with those staying in, for sure. I don't see why he would fold them right there. He's an aggressive player, wants to see flops, wants to catch hands, so he's staying in. And these gutters, one more street, why wouldn't he? He is a rather, I think he's a rather risky what am I saying? Risky, just a risky player, and risky players like to call with their draws. So let's say they will. Let's say he'll fold all these non-flush draws right here. Oh, just got another follow. See what your name is. I missed the first name. I apologize about that. 99 Problems one. Cool. Thank you very much for following, buddy. Thank you. So let's say now that this is his range. We started with 450 combos. You know, these cards remove combos from the range, so does mine. But we started at 450. Now we're down to 239. Almost half of his range we've removed, which is pretty good. I like that. So on the turn 10 of spades, what does this do to our Oh, actually, before we look at that, so once we filter for these hands, we only have 8% chance of winning. I mean, basically our 8% chance is what builds to that. He has some draws like 9-7 in, so there are a few cards where our king is going to beat his non-paired hand. That's possible. He also has plenty of pocket pair below top pair and mid pairs and weak pairs that if we hit a king, we beat those. So, you know, we're looking for basically 3 outs for 6% equity, and then we have an additional 2% equity because we beat some of his non-paired hands. That's about it. I mean, we have jack crap on this board. I could triple barrel as a bluff here, just rep that ace hard. I would have to bet somewhere like $7 or $8, I think, to get him to fold at this point. Did I put that card in? No, I didn't. Okay. So, but now that the 10 of spades hits, we have absolutely nothing. All we beat for 4%, all we beat are all of his non-pair hands. That is it. All his whiffed bluffs here. So we check and check right there. Yeah, I think I would have to bet really big. I mean, he has the best hand 95% of the time. He doesn't know what we have. We could have ace-8 2 pair with the way we played. It's totally possible. But if you look at our overall range, I think there's plenty of clubs that we bluffed at. There's plenty of weaker pocket pairs, 8s, or not 8s, 9s, 10s, 6s, 7s, 5s, 4s, 3s that we could have double barreled on. He sees that we're pretty passive, loose and passive at this table we've been so far. So that's probably his read on us. He should be putting us on an ace here, or just some kind of under pocket pair to the aces. So I don't see him folding unless it's a really big bet I make. Ace-9 suited. So that does fall within the range. It is one of those weak top pairs that he took down the streets. So, hey, success, good. And the thing is, he had that top pair the whole time. He wasn't going to fold. I really would have to make it $7, $8, $9, maybe even $12 over bet the pot to get him to fold right there. I just don't think he's doing it. And I don't have enough history to know that he can fold an ace high. So I'm going to assume with his aggressive, risky nature, he's calling with the ace high. So I'm glad I didn't commit any more money to that pot there. So, King 4 suited hand. It was a success. Even though we lost the hand, we narrowed him down pretty well just now. So we're good 4 out of 7 times so far. Failed on 3. Okay, let's get to this Poker Tracker 4 custom download page. So on this page, this is the one I showed you yesterday as we were planning for this week. It has a ton of different filters here that you can download and import into Poker Tracker 4. But that doesn't do us much good when we're trying to learn Poker Tracker 4. Remember, this week we're all about either somebody who uses Poker Tracker 4 but just uses the HUD. They just bought it, so they want to learn more, or they've had it for a long time and just don't know what to do about going about finding their leaks and fixing their leaks. You know, so that's what this is all about. So all of these different filters, I could download them, but forget that. We're not going to do it. What I did instead was I just put the filter right here. So let's we're looking at, let's clear the filter. So we're looking at all the hands I've played this year so far, up to 6,100. This is just 6 max, 25 NL. I still play full ring. I still play on other websites and stuff. Just not that much. But let's start going through the filters so I can easily flip back and forth between the two. What I'm planning on doing is finding the filter. I'm not going to be reviewing the hands today. I'm going to find the filter and then take a screenshot of this page, for example. Take a screenshot and then just paste it here for quick reference for myself for in the future for exactly how I found that filter. And I could actually save as a quick filter as well. But I don't think I'll be doing that today, taking the time to do all that. So first off here, 4-bet hands. Now, these are hands where we either faced a 4-bet or we made the 4-bet, just 4-bet in general hands. So, actions, opportunities, pre-flop raises, any 4-bet right there. Add that to the filter. We can also go to action opportunities, pre-flop opportunity, 5-bet when we're facing a 4-bet or greater. So we can see, oh, that's and. I don't want and. I should have put them on the same filter. Hold on a second. So pre-flop raises any 4-bet. And then we go back, Preflop opportunities. 5-bet facing a 4-bet or greater. So now you could see, oh, it says or. Dagnabbit. See, this is something that I am learning here. I don't do a lot of or and or opportunities. What I'll often do is I'll separate my I'm just trying to figure out how do you do ors here. Because if we look at that website, so we're learning together right now. Raise preflop 4-bet or folded or called or 5-bet. So this filter has everything in it. Interesting. What if you go to opportunities? Maybe if you just put everything under opportunities, this is where the ors come into play. So, 4-bet. There we go. This is where it is. It's simply clicking multiple things under one category right here. Here we go. Okay. Raise opportunity 4-bet. You're facing a 3-bet. So it's just the opportunity to make a 4-bet. Facing the 3-bet or greater, or 4-bet plus facing a 3-bet or greater, or 5-bet right there. So let's add, save and apply the filter. So 309 instances for myself where I have either had the opportunity to 4-bet or faced a 4-bet right here. And in these instances, I'm up 72 big blinds per 100 hands. That's pretty good. So my 4-bet pot skills aren't necessarily a leak just yet. You can see a lot of these losses in the big blind, you know, or they're in the blinds where I just folded in a 4-bet pot, like Queen 10 offsuit. He opens, he 3-bets. I have the opportunity to 4-bet. Screw it, I'm not going to do it. Yeah, definitely not. So in that kind of instance, that's my chance. Oh, wow, nice 3-bet bluff. Zero right now. I would imagine it recorded as a stat later on, but I'll put that there for now. What was the sizing? 3x plus. When I do pluses like that, 3x means, you know, 3x would be 225, but plus means just a little bit more. 3x plus sizing. Great. So we can see that filter, it works right there. There's a 4-bet pre-filter. Yeah, I'm not going to save this one necessarily. What I like to do when I'm going through filters is I normally like to pick one instance. So I'll go through all the hands where I maybe I had the opportunity to 4-bet. So, you know, facing a 3-bet, or the opportunity, or the hands where I made the 4-bet. I'll look up just the 4-bet hands pre-flop. Or I want to see where I was facing a 4-bet opportunity to 5-bet. I would look up just that. I try to do my filters really exact so I'm not encumbered by just too many hands. You know, if I'm filtering, you know, I like to keep things simple and I want to examine one situation at a time over multiple hands. So in general, I don't use crazy filters like this that can bring back too many hands. So let's say, whoops, discount the blind. Well, no, actually you can't discount the blinds in the cutoff right here. No, on the button, 72 hands. Some of these are zeros, you know, like it's bringing back hands in the filter where I'm not even going to look at. I don't care. I shouldn't say I don't care because it could be a good opportunity to 5-bet bluff or whatever, but I'm not going to go through all 300 hands. Let's say I wanted to research hands where I made the 4-bet, and for me that would be much better. So action opportunities, pre-flop raises, and it's a 4-bet right here. I made the 4-bet from any position. So this returns 17 instances. This is so much better. So I can go through all 17 of these hands in one study session. Trying to go through 300 hands is just way too much. There's just, I mean, you could do that over 3 or 4 days. Forget that. You know, I would rather work on this one instance. So this is where I actually made the 4-bet. You could see I'm really profitable. Let's look at something similar to this. actions and opportunities, pre-flop. What if we went to pre-flop opportunities and I had the opportunity to 4-bet? So what this is going to do, okay, 287 hands, which is still a really big amount. But these are all the spots where I could have 4-bet. And now if I want to, let's say I want to 4-bet more. Let's say my 4-betting is super nitty, and I only do so with value for value with pocket aces and kings. Well, if that's the case, I want to add some queens to the range. I want to add some good bluffs. I want to add some pocket nines and ace 5 suited, whatever it is. Let's say I want to 4-bet bluff a little more. Then I can go through all of these different opportunities and find out, hey, this was a really good spot to bluff. This was a really good spot. Why was it a good spot? Oh, because of the guys who opened in 3-bet, you know. Whatever the case is, by looking at this filter, this is a way that I can add 4-betting find opportunities to 4-bet more is what I can find by using this filter right here. So I don't like to combine all the filters in one. It makes no sense to me because you're studying multiple different things. You don't want to do that. When you're filtering, you want to filter down to a granular, gritty topic right there. One thing that you can really dive into. Just for completeness sake, bam, bip, bip. Oh, just really big. Scooted it over. It doesn't matter. Heads up pots now. So, I believe heads up pots, I even have hands, flop heads up. Maybe I've never saved one. That's fine. So more filters under. So we're looking for heads up pots, right? So you want the number of players simply seeing the flop between 2 and 2 right there. Now that's going to show you all the times where you were in the pot versus one other player. And you could do this if you want to look at multiple ways, you could do 3 and 3. You can even see on the turn and river players at showdown how many players, but we just want to see heads up pots right now. So players seeing the flop between 2 and 2. Before we get to that, cool. So let's take a look at what this filter brings. My guess is I'm going to be pretty profitable when I get to heads up situations. 30, it's not too bad. Big blinds per 100 right there. So we can take a look at this. Sort by sort by hand for one thing. Sort by money won or money lost. And then you can also look by position. Ooh, in the small blind, I'm not doing any good. Well, it makes sense right here that I'm out of position ultimately, no matter what. Even in the big blind, if I get heads up, I could be in position sometimes at least, you know, because the small blind open, I called, whatever. So in the small blind, this is the most losing spot. But if I would have folded every small blind, I'd be at -50. I'm doing better than just folding every small blind at least. I'm saving some money by playing some hands out of the small blind right here. And yeah, you can even sort it by whole cards to see what cards you got to the flop with. And you know, I want to take a look at all of my you know, weak suited aces. So you can look at that one, look at that one. Ace 10, weakish, you know. But if I had a lot of other suited aces, I could be looking at all of them right there. Most recent, let's pop up more hands. We got 500, and that's most recent 1,000 hands. Yeah, so we can take a look here. If I want to look at all my weak suited aces, Ace 7 suited. There's some Ace 6 suited, Ace 5 suited. Yeah, they're all right there for me to take a look at. Good, good. What is the next filter? Oh, V-pipped. Nice. So these are hands where I simply, right here, voluntarily put money in the pot. Great. Let's take a look at what happens. Good. I'm a winner right here. This isn't necessarily a leak. A lot of your fishy players and players who are just losers, you know, they're just not doing any good. They're seeing too many hands. When you run this filter for them, just VPIP filter, they're simply negative. You know, on average, when they put money in the pot, they lose money. You know, these are the kinds of guys who've bought in, you know, 5, 6, 7 times at $600 a pop, trying to get you know, the bonus for your deposit, that kind of a thing. They just keep depositing and keep losing right here. If you run this filter and you're losing, you are making some big mistakes, because when you're putting money into the pot, your goal is to put money into the pot when you're in either the best position, you have a skill edge, or you have better cards than your opponent's range. So if you're losing money when you're VPIPing, you probably have all 3 of those. You probably don't have all 3 of those. You're probably getting it in with worse cards. Your opponents have better skills than you, and you're probably calling out of the blinds a lot and losing a ton of money there. So you're just putting yourself in anti-bread and butter situations. ABBS. Let's see here. Yeah, so that's voluntarily put money in the pot. Next up, oh, all-in preflop. Nice. So this could be good for tournament people. As well as cash game players, because it can happen. You can get all in pre-flop. So if you want to see what hands you're doing so with, maybe you've gotten it all in pre-flop with pocket 3s a couple of times. Why did I do that? And maybe you had a good reason, you know, but it's something definitely worth checking out. Oops. Pre-flop right here. Pre-flop actions encountered with sizes. I don't remember where you see this at. 2-bet, 3-bet, hand details. Nope. This is something I haven't looked for in a long time. Oh, raised all in pre-flop. Oh, this is raised all in pre-flop. But what if you called all in pre-flop? I just want to see spots where you get it in pre-flop. Well, it would make sense to break it down, but you know, in cash games, it probably doesn't happen that often. I bet you, if I'm able to find this filter where you're all in pre-flop. Oh, that's heads up. Active player is all in pre-flop by either raising or calling. So there is a way to do it. Raised all in pre-flop. What if I select that? Pre-flop calls? Oh, went all in. Let's just look at the went all in. Let's see if that shows instances where I went all in, where I shoved. So only 7 instances. Let's take a look right here. Like those 10s might be me calling all in. I don't know. He shoved. I called. First hand's a call. He shoved. I called again. Called once again. Interesting. What happened here? Oh, flop a set. So he went all in, had a bigger stack than me, a full stack, $100 or $50 pot, 200 big blind. So I would say that he probably had me beat. He probably had like jacks are better, jack, queen, king. Maybe queens are better to do this. Ace, king even. Wow, I had him pre-flop. Okay, great. So those are all me calling. Oh, he just shoved. Oh, I 450. So I put him all in. Okay, good. Yeah, so I guess this is the filter that we want. Went all in is the filter for when I either call or shove all in. Ace, king, and kings. Let's take a look at these. Was that a raise all in? Okay, called all in once again. What does he have behind 47? So this is where I went all in. Good. Yep. Yep. So this filter right here shows you any instances of getting it all in pre-flop, whether you're the caller or the raiser. Great. We found it. Now you can see once again on this is actually not a leak. Oops. Close. It's actually not a leak of mine going all in pre-flop. I'm getting it in with the best of it, or maybe I'm catching them and sucking out, whatever the case is. Or my hand's holding up with that nines versus ace king. Great. Oh. Button facing a cutoff open with no limpers. Interesting. So hand details, we want to go to player position, pre-flop. The button is 0, so exactly 0. Just turn that on. So bam, I'm on the button right here. Now this is something I've never actually looked for. Preflop action sequence. First, no, So it's all the way to the bottom. Encountered. Facing a steel between. Apply sizes. Calculate void texture. So, preflop opportunities. Opportunity to open, opportunity to raise limpers, steal, squeeze, when squeezed, faced a steal attempt, cold called. Interesting. Let's go back to hand details right here. Pot size, number of, is there anything under number of players? No, that's just the number. Players here. Preflop limping that occurred. Well, we want to face an open, right? Number of limpers between 0 and 0. Let's turn that on. So we're on the button. No limpers in the pot. But we want to face a raise from the cutoff. If anybody in the chat knows, chat it out. Okay, let's go to preflop opportunities. Preflop calls. Okay, so I have the opportunity to call. I didn't necessarily make the call, but there's nothing here. Let's go to preflop opportunities. Okay, so it is a 3-bet opportunity. Well, that means I'm facing an open, right? For sure. So there's no limpers. Somebody opened at this point. Facing a 2-bet, which is good. So, but I don't know what position it's from. My position is the button. My position button, no limpers, facing a 2-bet. Let's just take a look at what this filter gives us. 487 hands on the button where I faced somebody raising ahead of time, but it could have been under the gun, MP, cutoff, under the gun, or in a 6-max because it's a 6-max, EP, MP, or the cutoff. I'm on the button. The blinds don't count right here. So how do I filter exactly for the cutoff making the raise? Let's go back to that page. So it's, oh, oh, in the cutoff, that makes sense because it's a re-steal opportunity. Preflop opportunities, squeeze. Facing a steal attempt, right? Because the cutoff is a steal position. We're on the button, so we're facing a steal attempt. We're not in the blind. Yeah, so faced on the button right here. Shebang. Let's see what this does. So we had 487 hands. Crap. What could be messing this up? So face a steal attempt in any position. Yeah, in the button we're facing a steal attempt from the cutoff, right? Yeah. And we have the re-raise opportunity. Let's just get rid of this. Number of limpers is 0, so you're facing a steal attempt. It's not like he's limping from the cutoff, because I say limpers is 0. Facing a steal attempt, and we're on the button. Dang it. How come this filter is not working? Let's get rid of this. No limpers. Skip the limper thing. Active player is exactly 0, which is the button. Facing a steal attempt. So it's only talking about a steal attempt, so that's not it. Steal attempt, that part of the filter only, yeah, that part of the filter is only... So I guess you're not technically facing a steal. We'll come back to this one. Because I want to figure out how to target a specific opener. So check raise flops with less than 2 pair. More filters. So action opportunities on the flop. So this is where I check raised the flop. So first you got to check the flop, right? And then flop raises, put a 2-bet out there. So you check and then you raised on the flop. Checked flop and raised. Great. That's right there. Oh, less than 2 pair was the other part to it. So made hands. Yeah, these are some of these filters I've less than 2 pair. Well, if you have less than 2 pair, that's 1 pair, right? Over pair, middle pair, under pair, made 1 pair on the flop. Here it is. Note tracker auto note feature. Oh, interesting. Okay, that's right. Check raise on the flop when the player has less than 2 pair. To make an auto note for that. That's pretty cool. It's interesting. I've never made my own auto notes. That's something I'll do this week. figure that one out. Kicker strength, lower pair. Man, this is another one I got to get back to. Be a little bit boring if I spend 20 minutes in these filters on the stream right here. So let's get back to this one too. Okay, now first, 2-bet caller, not a squeeze opportunity. So, actions and opportunities. Oh no, 2-bet caller, we're talking about preflop. Let's see here. We don't want a squeeze opportunity. 3-bet facing a 2-bet? When squeeze, no. What happens here? Bummer. Cold call a 2-bet when first to respond to the raise in 2-bet pots. Cold calling a 2-bet. Called the 2-bet. So this is what I would do if I'm trying to figure out how I play when I call a 2-bet. This is all I would do right here, because this will give you every instance where you called a 2-bet. Nice and simple. If you want to look at spots particularly, oh, called on the flop. Gosh darn it. Preflop calls, called the 2-bet right there. If you want to see particularly called the squeeze, you can look at that. Cold called a 2-bet. If you want to look at just cold calling, I prefer just calling a 2-bet so I can see what happens out of the blinds as well. Cold calling is basically just when you haven't put any money in, so you're in one of the later positions with 0 invested in the pot. If you look at the cold, or if you look at just calling, it could be out of the blinds, could be in the later position, whatever. So this is what I would prefer. Oh, oops, messed up. Let's clear that filter. More filters right here. So we want to look at when we called preflop. Preflop calls, called a 2-bet is fine. So this is one, calling the 2-bet, of course. Calling the 2-bet. You can also look at instances, because you want to separate these out. You don't want your filter to come back with way too many hands like this. You want to filter it down a little bit. So we can look for instances, preflop opportunities. We can look for squeeze opportunities right here. Now this separates it. Sure, we could call the 2-bet or we could 3-bet, but we're facing an open and a caller right here. So this is actually a pretty good filter if you want to add some squeezes into your game, especially if you're thinking about adding squeezes in the blinds. So let's take a look at that in just a sec. Good. Okay, so these are the opportunities with just a squeeze opportunity. Now a lot of these losses, look at that, these are losses out of the blinds, and this is when maybe I have been squeezing. So this is a definite leak that I can dive into, squeeze opportunities. Maybe I am, look at those losses, oh that's ugly stuff. Doing good on the button right there, and the reason why on the button, look at, I can just fold a ton of hands when I have the squeeze opportunity. I'm not losing any money. But in the blinds, I'm losing a ton of just, you know, in the big blind right here, just losing a ton of blinds. I had the opportunity to squeeze, but I just called another 25 cents to see the flop. So these are some really good filters to look for me. Squeeze opportunity. Yep, for sure. I will be diving into that one without a doubt. That's a good one. All right, well, it's already 6:20, so I've got to end this stream. Thank you very much. I've got these other filters that I'll look for, and I'll try to figure that out. What I'll do is I'll put screenshots here on all these, and then I'll send them out to everybody so that you can see. You won't see exactly where I found these filters, but you can look at this and get a good idea of where I found them. Yeah, I might send it out. Well, no, this is going to be homework. Yeah, this will be homework for you. These are really good things for you to dive into Poker Tracker 4 and figure this out for yourself. I've already shown you all of these. I showed you these two where I couldn't figure out, so maybe you can figure it out and then let me know that you figured it out. Whatever the case, that's up to you. But tomorrow we'll be looking at that auto note feature because that's something I've thought about doing in the past. Where was that one at? Okay, this one right here. So check raising the flops with less than 2 pair. This is a great great auto note to make. Auto notes are, in case you don't know, let's open up this table. I don't know you. So right here. This is the notes tracker within Poker Tracker 4. This is where you type all your notes up here. Down below, these are the auto notes. So you can see these are already set up. It tells you the 3 hands that they've 3-bet with, what they've called 2 bets from the blinds. They limp and call a raise, limp and re-raise. It shows you those hands and how many instances you've seen it. So we've seen 3 times they've 3-bet with aces, jacks, and ace king. So a pretty tight, regular standard 3-better right here. Well, if you could create a note that says pre-flop, or on the flop, check raised with less than 2 pair, and in these brackets you'll see whatever it is. I don't know what the note will look like, but it'll say what they've done it with. Maybe top pair, maybe ace high. It might say stuff like that. I don't know. We'll have to create the note and figure it out for ourselves. But it's a pretty interesting function to be able to add and do on our own. So we'll work on that tomorrow. Alrighty, thank you very much, everybody, for watching this during the stream or after the fact. And let's see here. Alrighty, take care.